G'day Hammerheads, welcome back to the bench, and today I am pleased to be bringing you, finally, this is the Bosch Professional 18 volt Flexiclick. Now I do say finally because I've actually had this for quite a while. It's taken me a long time to get around to actually shooting this video. So long in fact that a new version of this tool has come out pretty recently, but not to worry, according to this tool guide, the new version is pretty much identical to the old version. So we're not missing out on any amazing performance improvements. And because this is the Rotary Hammer channel, I am focusing on this particular attachment here. This is the SDS Plus attachment that this thing has. So if you're not familiar, Flexiclick is Bosch's version of one of these changeable chuck multi-tool sort of things. Nowadays, most of the big tool makers have some kind of thing like this where you can change the front of the tool, but Bosch was one of the first, if not the first. I think Festool may have done the very first one, but you know, this has been around for quite a while. So the base tool is this thing. It's a brushless driver, basically. It does have a torque selector ring and a 1/4 inch hex chuck up the front. So used like this, you know, it's fine for all your general drilling and driving and whatever in a hex system. And then it has a bunch of other chucks that you can get on the front. Now, my kit, I got it off eBay. It only has these two attachments, which is fine because I'm interested in the rotary hammer one. But if you want to use it as a normal sort of drill driver, 3-jaw chuck in there, it's perfectly fine as a normal drill driver, just in this configuration. Now the latch, the retainer for the chucks is actually really solid. It's all metal on the inside there. It clicks in and then you tighten it up. Now Bosch Green, the DIY version, has recently released a version of that as well. It's got a click-in chuck, slightly different retainer. So unfortunately, if you do have the Flexiclick, these are not actually compatible. So using the 3-jaw chuck on there, you know, I've drilled like that hole there, 20 millimeters through plate aluminium, also 20 or 30 millimeters through structural steel. So as a drill driver, this thing is no slouch. It's definitely not a DIY grade sort of thing. But of course, being the Rotary Hammer channel, this is the bit we're actually going to be focusing on here. And it turns your little drill driver into an SDS drill, a small SDS drill. As you saw, it fits you know, a regular Bosch handle on there, so that's nice. And this is quite an interesting unit. It's definitely got a different kind of hammer mechanism in there to your normal rotary hammers. So firstly, it doesn't hammer unless you're actually pressing. Whoa! And it seems to kick just as hard whether it's revving slow or fast. So yeah, I can already tell it is not your standard rotary hammer. When it hits, it also feels like it's got this spring-loaded slammer drill style thing in there. So anyway, I'm going to crack this open later on, see what's going on inside there. But for now, let's take a look at the specs. All right, so here are the specs. So this is just for the actual hammer attachment. Pretty pricey actually. Believe it or not, that's just for the hammer attachment here in Australia. I'm not sure they'll be selling too many of them. And if you're in Europe, you can actually get this kit that I have for almost 400 euros. Weight, obviously very light because it's only half a rotary hammer. Capacity 10 millimeters or about 3/8. Impact energy 1 joule, and then the impacts per minute, the RPM, that's based on the driving unit that I've actually got on there now. As we'll see in a second, you might be able to drive it with a different drill. Now this impact energy 1 joule, you won't really see much lower than that. Basically the smallest, weakest hammers around, like these tiny little things which are, yeah, not great, or the very smallest like 12 volt hammers, they're kind of down there around the 1 joule mark. There you go, the old Makita 12 volt hammer, 1 joule as well. But really 1 joule, about as low as it gets. This little attachment here, she is very expensive. You could almost buy a whole rotary hammer just for the price of this. So, you know, this is already going to be quite a user-specific tool if you do want to commit to getting one of these. But anyway, that's enough yapping, let's get drilling. So because this is an SDS drill, it's got the handle, the depth rod and everything, I can just test it exactly the same as all the other SDS drills I've tested. So first up is the test that all the tiny rotary hammers get. So that is 8 millimeters drilling in 80 mil into 32 MPa concrete. Let's see how she goes. All right, and the 8mm speed drill. Where is the Flexiclick? Yeah, okay, down towards the end. So down there among the older, weaker hammers that we've got. So the Flexiclick is a different style tool, but you know, all things considered, this is kind of what you'd expect to see among the older, weaker Milwaukees, the older Makita, Hikoki with the little battery on there, and then, yeah, whatever the hell these things are. And next up is the max capacity. So we are skipping past the 12mm speed drill, which every hammer usually gets, because this thing is only rated up to 10. So we're going straight to the max capacity, 10mm. Let's see how she goes. And for the max capacity, how did she go? Well, all right, there you go, right down the front. And of course, that's just because of the rating that the manufacturer gave it, rated up to 10mm. These guys are all drilling bigger holes than that. So no, Flexiclick is not more powerful than, say, the universal hammer. It's just how this test works. So fair bit faster than the little Skill and the little Denali Amazon thingy. So the hammering on the Flexiclick is a bit weak and it's a bit strange, but the driving unit on there means you've got a lot more torque to work with than a lot of these hammers as well. So yeah, pound for pound, it actually does pretty well. And she absolutely dominated. So it is interesting that they rate it really small, even though it can surely handle bigger bits. In fact, I've already shown in an old video that, yeah, you can actually use much bigger bits, like, you know, up to that size at least, with this drill. And it turns out you don't even need the base tool to drive this. So it's a 1/4" hex inside there. You can drive this thing with any other hex compatible tool. So all you need to do is whack that in there and she'll rotate at least. Let's see if this will drill too. So that was a pretty torquey drill. What about an impact? Very, very high RPM, maybe that'll benefit. All right, so it turns out that no, an impact doesn't really work with this because, well, she starts impacting. Still, good finding though, because that means if you do find one of these, you don't need to get the whole rest of the Flexiclick kit. That's potentially going to be useful for some of you out there. So if you're doing the sort of work where normally a regular hammer drill does okay, but sometimes you find whatever aggregate you're hitting or something is just stopping you, maybe having one of them in your bag would be useful just for some occasions. So there you go, guys. I'm not fully sold on this whole Flexiclick thing as a solution. It does seem more geared towards DIY kind of stuff. You know, a home yarner just wants to buy one tool and have it a bit more adaptable. That kind of thing seems to really suit the whole concept a lot better. But then the success of the new Milwaukee installation driver A lot of guys are finding that super handy. So who knows? This isn't the kind of thing I would really use for my usage. Pretty much all I ever need is a little rotary hammer. I'm not doing much drilling or driving other than, you know, what this thing does. But I do think, you know, for a few niche users out there, this little unit, it's going to be pretty handy. So anyway, I'll leave that up to you. Hopefully I've helped you decide. Make sure you like and subscribe, and, you know, chuck us a comment and everything if there's anything else sort of SDS, rotary hammer, concrete fastener-ish you want to see. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll scratch yous later.